2023, which is held virtually via Microsoft Teams. At this juncture, we are dealing as item 5, which is the decision and reasons for decision for the Transnet SOC Limited's tariff application for its petroleum pipeline system for the 2023-2024 financial. Madam Mtwa, and also workshopped internally. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members again and colleagues. As indicated that we have 5 minutes to report on this, I'll just like to straightly hand over to Mr. Gaba, who comments by the members that we got through the workshop, and also touch on the comments from the public that we have received and have attached to the documents, and then.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good morning to all members and colleagues. First of all, I would just like to apologize to colleagues. I did notice that there is an error in the table numbering of the submission itself on item 5. It must have been a slight oversight. As Mr. Mkhize has stated, this application has been run through the members in the workshop that was held on the 1st of February, as well contained in it contains 2 appendices. The cost benefit analysis that was requested to aid in nurses' decision or readmission of the intermixture refrigerator plant onto the RAB, as well as the stakeholders' comments that were considered in coming up with the recommendation. The stakeholder comments were received from Transnet itself, SASOL, Shell, as well as IATA as well. Chair, maybe to mention, we did in its 15 million in the previous determination, all the way up to 80 million in the current determination. As a result, we had requested Transnet to further elaborate on to extensively or convincingly to submit information that would convince, if I may put it that way. And as a result, we did to that particular OPEX element, and we decided to only allow of 9%, as stated by Transnet, to be the rate at which TNPA does increase their rent, and that however did not affect the recommended tariffs, as we put it, but it did, however, affect the amount of deferred allowable of the regulatory asset. And with that said, Chair, to be brief, we would like the decision and reasons for decision on the Transnet application for the 23-24, taking into consideration also the attached tariff increases of 9.49%. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, may I please have your comments, questions, and guidance on this item, noting that the application was introduced last month, and then there was also a workshop on the same. And the space that you are in economically in the country, with all the increases in all the utilities, and having the team having had to look at the issues as were raised by you members. So, members, by show of hands. Mr. Sibanda.
Thank you, Chairperson, and to the team. Chair, by and large, with how the team has incorporated the comments and input that was provided previously. As you indicated, we've dealt with this matter first at the hearing and then at the workshop, and I think we've had extensive discussions. My only comment that I have, having gone through the stakeholder comments, which we did not have last time, Chair, I'm just concerned that our analysis does not integrate the comments from stakeholders. So what we've done, we've simply summarized the stakeholder comments. But we've not indicated how we've taken those into account or how we've responded to some of the issues that stakeholders have raised. And we and request the public to comment into account. I'll give an example. For instance, the first issue in the comments that was raised has got to do with product theft from the Transnet pipeline and the impact thereof. And most of the stakeholders have said these costs should not be allowed, and that they should be covered by insurance and all of that. Now, I think it's important then in our analysis to capture that and to indicate how we respond or what our position is with what the stakeholders are saying or not, and if not, what is our rationale for that. So that's just one. But I mean, there are a number of issues that stakeholders have raised, and we have not indicated why we don't agree with them or why we necessarily agree. So you will see in the draft reasons, for instance, we do provide Transnet's views and then indicate what other stakeholders. So it's as if we've taken those comments and just summarized them, but we're not indicating what our position is on those matters. So that's the only issue, Chair, that I wanted to raise. Otherwise, the rest of the analysis and the recommendation, I'm aligned with that, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will then appeal to the team to say, do indicate if your understanding and the need for enhancement and if that is going to change the decision in terms of what as things stand here, because I'm looking for concern that has also come from the regulator, looked at these issues and then coming up with these comments. They must be interwoven in your decision and reasons for decision document. It shouldn't be like you've packed them in the annexure that deals with comments and the position of NERSA there. So you must take that position and the ones that have commented and indicated. It must be interwoven. It must find expression throughout the document. It shouldn't be maybe more about it's NERSA, it's NERSA and then it's Transnet. It's NERSA, it's Transnet, it's also the stakeholders in terms of the entities that you cite in the incorporation of those comments in the decision and reasons for decision document. I hope you've gotten that clear, and I hope, Mr. Sibanda, I've represented you well in terms of what, in essence, you want to see, how what we have now gotten from the agree or disagree with any of the arguments or counter arguments being put forward by stakeholders. Now we're moving on to Madam Massetti.
Input, what kind of limitation we'll have when members are making input on this matter and other items on the agenda, so that we can understand members in giving the input. I just wanted to raise that up front so that if all members are given 2 minutes to make input, then maybe then the clock will have to be shown so that we all get that 2 minutes. I wouldn't want a comment.
Sorry, just on that one, I've asked the secretariat just to raise a thumbs up when the 2 minutes is done. Then we can just indicate that to the members. Maybe forgot to say that. Yeah, it's not a clock that's shown here. All right.
All right. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my issues, I think I have about 3 mainly. One is that I'm over 80. I mean, it's about 87%. That on its own, it is an excessive increase, and it does not put the regulator in a good position as a regulator to in this increase as we have it. In the analysis, we don't even make an assessment or talk to affordability and sustainability of such a tariff and that increase, how it can be absorbed. Only of the licensee. We need to also balance the interest of the whether in the proposed tariff and the increase will be sustainable. So we are not addressing that aspect. We try in terms of the smoothing approach here that we have on table 8. That must also at least show at what point should we even consider reinstating the deferred amounts, because I'm sure the amounts are deferred on the basis of trying to accommodate the rate payers to be able to the tariff. However, we are not putting certain criteria as to under what conditions would we be able to allow those amounts back into the tariff or back into the revenue. So I was hoping that since we have raised that before, that we should be in a position, once we see that the conditions now, the market conditions are much better, and we have assessed the ability of the users to the tariff. Once then we have those indicators, which we'll put up front for transparency and predictability, that for both the rate, the tariff payers, as well as the licensee, that at least they will be in a position to afford it. Lastly, Chairperson, we are talking about the challenges with regards to the volumes that are not met, and I believe that it will still continue. We have not had a situation where the volumes are met. And there is no document or an economic analysis that has been done in terms of the market growth or even the demand in the market. Yet we do accept the increase that is proposed for volume. But we don't have a document that talks to the volume growth profile so that the remaining capacity can be taken up. And we know by when that capacity is going to be taken up, of the capacity that can be taken up. So the tariff, we understand what will happen at least in the next 2 years or the next 3 years, and what plans the licensee has made to make sure that the tariff will come down, as we are supposed to do that, looking at the throughput and see if the tariff will come down. So I'd like to then stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Aseti. Before maybe I move on, I think it's important that we just put things in perspective here, because we are in the public domain. The increase or in tariff that has been applied for is articulated in terms of what is in paragraph 6.9, which talks to an application for an 69% increase in the allowable rebate, 75.51% in tariffs. And then this would have resulted in an increase of about 42.58 cents per litre in the fuel price in the 2023-24 financial year, increasing from 56.39 cents per litre currently to 98.97 cents per litre. However, we're taking due cognizance of the affordability and other factors, as well as not neglecting the sustainability of Transnet. The management then works on all matters, including the need for smoothing, taking due regard of this, and then came to the figure that is way lower than that. At the moment, I'm not at liberty to talk to the figure, because I take it as confidential until such time that it is approved by ER, because from our side is to recommend to ER, but the recommendation is much lower than this figure. And there's been consultations with Transnet at a technical level. In between the meeting, this meeting and ER, there will be consultation with the Transnet, especially for areas where the regulator has applied this discretion, as clarification for those of comments by those who commented late. So I think let's just make sure that we deal with this thing accordingly. Enhancement in line with the issues raised, you then have to do those enhancements. Let us move quickly. I note the consent time. Advocate Story, and the appreciation of the round of questions. Advocate Story, over to you, please.
Thanks, Chairperson. I'll be very willing, as if I'm repeating what has been raised previously, which it is. It's the issue on the product theft. It was raised at the meeting of January, and as well as at the what we are saying in the latest, it is difficult to really check. I just thought I should highlight that and also to record my concern in relation to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Stole. Mr. Kaba.
Sure. Maybe to start off with Mr. Sabanda's comment, we did duly take into consideration the members' comments. I think we went extensively in the RFD. However, we will.
I think that is the right manner in which it is written.
With that, I think in terms of this one said the item 37 of the RRM of the RRMs of Volume 4, where we created a regulatory asset which would allow for the deferred amounts to be realized on a real basis, basically realizing a real return that will sort of mimic or take into consideration the money. And the impact of creating such a value, it had the effect of enabling a reduction in the proposed tariff, as well as the writing off the amount without eliminating any residual consequences, such as that are associated with the reasoning behind this particular approach. In terms of the ramp up, we had initially requested a volume growth plan from Transnet. However, they did indicate that the initial growth plan had been disrupted by COVID-19, and also now they're more conservative, looking at how the economy will recover and how they affected users of the pipeline also. That's why Transnet maybe long-term volume growth outlook, ma'am. I hope that addressed your concern. In terms of the CEO, ma'am, I think maybe we should try and elaborate more within coming to this, but I had stated, I think previously, that Transnet had indicated that in its insurance policy, it does not item that covers product theft incidents. What it does do as an organization in terms of its statutory books, it does have a provision that that particularly provides for product theft incidents. I think we had alluded to the amount which is confidential, and also some of that the provision does cater for. However, because awareness costs are ongoing operational expenditure, hence they deem that it's to pass through only that particular, only those particular items. However, anything related to revenue losses as a result of the product thefts is covered under that that particular provision that they have in their statutory books, which we do not cater out as part of the tariff, and we only allow those ones because of the justification that it is an ongoing practice in terms of operating expenditure. Those particular costs and the unofficial, maybe if I may, from management, was that there were specific intricacies in security costs. Then those cannot be covered because they are seen as operational measures, if I may put it that way, ma'am.
To highlight that when it comes to the volumes, I think it's also going to be, man must not look at the application in isolation. There's other work like you have done with the issues of RRMs. There's work that takes place back into the consideration of the tariff application. For example, this inland security of supply, which started off looking at the adequacy of infrastructure to supply the inland market, which consume about 62% of petroleum products in the country, with the Gauteng commercial hub. But it's still the move now was to say infrastructure is adequate. Now let's look at how to increase the utilization of the infrastructure. That is when also you include the fact that if there is a more that is demanded, there is an engine that are going to be included to pump even more if so required. So that we keep the issue of pump stations alive. So that in future, if no one is caught by surprise by these things, and that there is a concerted effort also to increase volumes, which then talks to why the tariff must also remain competitive when one compares it with a rail as well as road, because we don't want a situation where people will end up using the pipeline for such distances. Hence, that link, it is very technical level, because you engage Transnet. If you can also get the verbatim explanation from their side, because during the theft incidents that we had during the past year, I had also engaged Transnet personally on this matter, dealing with the issue of product theft. That with the frequency being very high of these incidents, the premium will be astronomically high, just to cover the theft itself, and then improvements and what they've considered. It's actually more cost effective than actually taking opting for the increase of the product theft. But for other issues, they do have insurance, as there would be sometimes losses of rupee to enhance that as well as being able to quote what Transnet has provided verbatim. I would leave it at that. Members, I hope you've got the responses, and I would like to then, in the absence of any follow-up questions, move on then to the recommendation, which is included is actually should be 16.1. It's written there 9.1, where it is recommended that the PPS consider the proposed decision and reasons for decision on the Transnet tariff application for its petroleum pipeline system for the 2023-24 financial year, attaches Annexure A, approval of the allowable revenue of the amount indicated there for the Transnet pipeline system, and the setting of tariffs for the Transnet pipeline system, which is shown in Table 10. Members, by show of hands, if you support this recommendation, with all the issues raised for enhancement of the submission and the as well as the decision and reasons for decision by management by show of hands. Recommendation as articulated. With that, may we please then proceed for combined license for the construction of a petroleum storage facility located in Isla and dedicated marine loading facilities on beds 208 and 209 in the port of Richards Bay, KwaZulu-Natal province. Over to you, your team.
Mr. Mkhize, it's Martin Untit. I think this matter is PLC, and I think I will introduce the document uploaded is the one to be considered, and that included the table of 8 on page accordingly. I'm not sure if Mr. Reeb.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members, and on table 8, the last column, item 6. And then when you move to the P34 of the ratio, they were swapped around accidentally. I won't mention the percentages since they're confidential, but they were swapped around section. With that done, sir, this application license for the construction of a storage facility, dedicated marine loading facilities in the port of Richards business model. They construct facilities to allow for third parties them on contractual basis, and those details are contained together with the financial abilities on green stamped starting from P9 of 58. Elaborate there were questions asked by during the pre-hearing, and those were answered to P11 of 58, the green stamped one. It has to be noted that there was, with that said, we were of the view that the application approved the issuing of the combined license to BTT for the quantity with a combined capacity of 7,900 meter cubes, as well as the dedicated marine facilities as attached. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Guidance. You support the recommendation as articulated on page 14 of 58. Members. Thank you, Advocate Tole, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Smiti. I also support the recommendation as indicated on P14, which is the Island View Storage Limited's application of a combined license for the construction of its petroleum facilities. One, a petroleum storage facility consisting of 9 design capacity of 27,000 cubic meters for the storage of diesel, heavy fuel oil, and light cycle oil for its customers in lots 3 and 4 facilities of 12-kilometer long bi-directional auxiliary pipelines linking these marine loading facilities to the above-mentioned proposed storage facility. And then to also approve the decision and reasons for decision document, which is attached as an associated conditions of the combined license, which are attached as Annexure A1. With that, this can amendment of the conditions of his license issued for the construction of a storage facility in.
Chair, Mr. Lukele will take about 90 seconds to do Ms. Simani's.
Whereby Equinoil is seeking the amendment of the construction timelines in its license conditions for the construction of a storage facility in Niger, an extension of the commencement date of construction from February 2020 to March 2024, requesting an extension of the construction period from 18 months to 36 months to the main reason for the request for extension or for the delays is the COVID impact on the project, which resulted on the project being halted soon Conware intends to construct. It's on the site previously for mining, still to be. Construction work has not commenced, and the money spent to date is largely on acquiring the land, project development, and for work related to. Chair, lastly, the document was sent for language editing in parallel to it being reviewed. Changes will be effected as part of the implementation. And we also wish to just apologize for an error on paragraph, as well as a similar error on paragraph 36. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I may then, just for the benefit of the men, I believe RSU has actively the majority of our licensees and had to come back for amendments. They used the opportunity to revisit their business case, which is one of your questions posed, but on 3 companies not included in the submission. Maybe it's an oversight, especially for new the background, so that's why the documents were uploaded. But that has been a challenge for transformation, and therefore, since there's literally 2 or 3 of them, one of the considerations to grant this license, that this wants to connect to TM2 for Transnet, and the volume growth that I think the members discussed in the confidentiality matter, Ms. Simani, but we did use then that will be redacted. However, NASA has got a full copy of the knowledgeable, and that's what we shared with you and uploaded. Sorry, I took a bit longer to the full context.
Thank you. Members, any comments, questions, or guidance?
Appears to be some questions. So in terms of the on which this project is supposed to be located, so I wanted to find out whether there was a new up to the first lapse. And then secondly, the also issues of illegal, and it appears this might delay the project even issue. And then I also wanted to check in terms of the proof of funding that was provided with the initial application, whether that time that has lapsed before the project could commence. Are we comfortable with that? The funding is still planned. And then lastly, if you look at some of the reasons for the delay on 18, page 8 of 11, or page 8 of 29, sorry. So it mentions things like inexpenses, whether we do in the application forms, whether we do indicate actually we don't have enough experience or knowledge around the sector, or that we're not aware of what is required at the beginning. It's not in our processes. Thank you, Chair.
As you are asking concerning us, there was that challenge of not being involved as such. This is lodged as an application. One cannot then engage this meeting. Then even the FTRM concerned, primary responsible to eliminate perpetual or continuing extension. But really to get to the issues, and I know the issue of the ability, so that there's an understanding of what is required, so that yes, we need to approve based on our legislation, but that we should also do with the context of what other abilities that also is important to consider. So that point, I think the team should really and make sure that work is done in that regard. But I would
sir, let me note your comment, Mr. Sibanda, on what we can do to assist, and this is, like I said, it's especially on greenfield projects regular number 3, illegal mining. Mr. Sibanda, we have joint department as institute. Law enforcement agencies is primarily tasked with this and should be doing that. Said as authorities, we also set up that forum to try and share information. And there's also looking into some giving more. Mr. Lukele, quickly on the site development
and DMRE approvals. The straight answer is that no, they haven't applied for the renewal. Seen the NESA part of it, compliance with the NESA part of it, and then go for that approval. And just to alleviate some fears, hence we added paragraph 22 is still valid.
In regards to the financial ability to construct the facility, we have an indicative term sheet provided by a potential funder. The transaction summary indicates that this, and then in terms of financial viability of the project, we have 3 MOAs, and all the interested parties have committed to a certain throughput volumes, and those MOAs were dated July 2022, July 2023, or unless they are renewed in writing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I hope you note the follow-up from Mr. Sibanda highlighting that when it comes to the illegal mining question or solutions and not NERSAs, because to indicate that. And I think that post this meeting, it's important that those matters are actually bedded down going forward. I'm not so sure, Mr. Sibanda, if you are adequately covered.
I'm covered, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda. The green pages, which is from 29th February 2020 to 31st March 2024, and the construction period from 18 months to 36 months. Also, the B is the decision and reasons for decision. Here too is Annexure A, and C, and lastly, is the addendum to the license of the decision and reasons for decision document mentioned above. With that, members, by show of hands, if you support the recommendation, subject also to the incorporation of the comment. Thank you, Madam Simane, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Maseti, Advocate Tole. I also do support the recommendation as articulated a report on the implementation of the methodology to determine uncommitted capacity, National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, for short. I would then like to give you Dr. Kolo. I hope Dr. Kolo is in the meeting. Otherwise, then
yes,
she's going to...
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Then. You take the matter as read, and you've got your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Submission that is dealing with infrastructure utilization and third-party access, and it's going to serve at the PPS of 3 March 2023. This one is just looking at the implement methodology. We sort of approach of determining uncommitted capacity, where there is will be able to select more than the minimum threshold of the stock terms. So what we've observed as we look at the implementation of that, because it started from April 2022, the hybrid approach, but we have noticed that there is only one licensee. Much of a surprise we regard as the independent storage operators, because with the independent storage operators, that's their core business. And in terms of determining uncommitted capacity, as you would see in March 2023, in terms of the facilities that have been identified to have uncommitted capacity, to approve the attached report. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kolo. Members, any questions, comments, or guidance to provide? Mr. Sibanda, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I must say I struggled a little bit with the recommendation. It wasn't quite apparent to me what exactly are we being requested to approve. Because I thought that after the methodology, then we would be coming up with a specific recommendation, but it's not that apparent to me in the report. So I started a little bit with that, unless the request is to say just approve the report as is without a specific recommendation flowing out of whatever we have observed. Because I thought, for instance, we would be making a recommendation to say perhaps we need to amend the methodology to increase the number of stock turns, because that's the core observation that we have. In relation to issues that were flagged previously. So apart from the issue of the number of stock turns, for instance, if you go to paragraph, anything about those, because if those restrictions, then that has got an impact on our implementation of the methodology, or if there are other limitations that parted to, then that has got implications again for the methodology. But it seems that the report is only zeroing in on the issue of
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Dr. Klolo, in your team, if you may respond.
Yes, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Sibanda, for the questions. Maybe I should have started by saying, apologizing that the document that was initially uploaded had missing pages, and I had requested RSU to sort of assist to upload the full document. Apologies that if members did not have access to the full document that also include the recommendations. Maybe just to come back to the questions that have been posed. Like I said when I started, there is it's a pity that we've got projects that are interrelated. So the other one that's going to serve on the 3rd of March 2023 is looking at a whole lot of things. It's not just utilization, but also in terms of the challenges and as well as the level of third-party access. It's a number of things that it covers. This one is zooming in terms of the methodology itself, regarding the stock turns, we're seeing a hybrid. It's a hybrid in a sense that there is a minimum amount of stock turns, but there is a flexibility if a licensee wants to turn their product more frequent. So there is this functionality that they don't just rely on the minimum, but they can do more than the minimum that is prescribed. So all that is contained in a volume reporting template of which the licensees submit to NERSA on a monthly basis. So what we do before the start of a financial year, for the benefit of everyone, let's say in March, we'll sort of submit a volume reporting template that will be used by licensees in terms of reporting for covering the entire financial year. It means from April to March the following year. And then, but there is that 1 month lag in reporting. And then sort of you updating that on a monthly basis going forward. But there is, like I indicated, regardless that the majority chose to use the minimum stock turns. But with the submission that is coming to PPS in March, you will see a number of facilities with uncommitted capacity. And that is beneficiary to to third parties. So it is not affecting us in terms of having facilities with uncommon capacity. So in terms of the challenges are covered in the submissions in March. Thank you, Chair and members.
What you are not helping with, Dr. Paul, is one, why not note the submission instead of approve it? Let's just start there. One. Two, under paragraph 5.7, because you are listing issues that could unduly hamper third-party access. I think to then include a sentence there that states exactly what you have said, that these matters will be exhaustively dealt with in the report on third-party access, and the position of the energy regulator in this in regarding this is provided. Can I get a response from you regarding the issues I've just raised?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I've noted the second point you've raised, but with the first point, it's unfortunate that we are guided by the delegation metrics in terms of this particular project, that it has to come for approval. But we'll sort of liaise with RSU if they are happy when we bring in the report on the implementation that is just for noting, unless there are changes to be done on the methodology itself, and then we bring it for approval. But we'll seek guidance from RSU pertaining to that. Thank you.
So here we're approving the report as a whole, noting that in essence there aren't changes to the implementation that you are then suggesting to the methodology being used. It's just that it's the whole report on the implementation that we need to approve. Am I understanding you correctly there?
Correct, sir.
Thank you. So you'll then deal with the enhancement. Members, you've heard the responses. The recommendation is on paragraph 15 on page 6 of 9, which is that the Petroleum Pipelines Subcommittee approves the report on the implementation of the methodology to determine uncommitted capacity at the petroleum storage facilities. By show of hands, members, if you support the approval of this report subject to the enhancement put forth. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Aseti, Madam Simane, Advocate Stoll. I also support the recommendation. This then concludes item 8, and we move into item 9, which is the decision and reasons for decision document on the multi-year tariff application by Cornet Diesel for its petroleum storage facility located in Versesbron in the Free State Province. Over to you, Madam Yogwane.
Thank you, Chair. Is Mr. Mahlangu?
Oh, okay, Mr. Mahlangu, proceed. You've got 3 minutes.
I'll take the matter as read. The tariffs requested for approval and recommended for approval by NESA are highlighted on pages 11 of the PPS submission and 15 of the decision and reasons for decision document. The key issues to consider which led to differences in the calculation of the tariffs include the difference in the RAV values due to the difference in the property, plant and equipment and net working capital values calculations. Also, the difference in the work values due to the different cost of equity values determined by both parties. Cornet Diesel used economic data for the petroleum pipeline facilities, which is for 30 years, while NESA used economic data for petroleum storage and loading facilities, which is for 25 years. This resulted in differences in the values for risk-free rate, market risk premium, and beta. Also, the difference in the tax expense values due to differences in the AR values used. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mahlangu. It did save us some time. We'll then get comments, questions, or guidance from members? Noting that there are no hands raised, members, I would like to take you then to the recommendation, which is on P11 of 36, which states thus: it is recommended that the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee approves the tariff of 56.21 cents per litre for 2023-24 financial year, 56.31 cents per litre for 2024-25 financial year, and 56.28 cents per litre for 2025-26 financial year for the Cornet Diesel Storage Facility located in Vessel Brom for the period 1 March 2024 to 28 February 2026, and to approve the decision and reasons for decision document, which is attached as Annexure A. By show of hands, members, if you support this recommendation. Thank you, Madam Simane, Madam Maseti, Advocate Tole, Mr. Sbanda. I also support the recommendation. This then concludes item 9, and we're moving to item 10. I will give you 5 minutes, noting the challenges we've had with item 10, to present it and kind of go into the bit more detail on the issues without necessarily taking more time on the presentation. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, everyone. Sorry, Chair.
I was saying, may proceed, Madam Yogan. Is your one?
Thank you, it's Ms. Kagiso.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The purpose of this submission is to request the PPS to know the report on the transitioning of version 5 of the tariff methodology for petroleum storage and loading facility. Just to take you back, Chairperson, on the 31st March 2022, the ER approved the publication of version 5 of the tariff methodology for the approval of tariffs for petroleum storage and loading facilities. The ER also approved the transition period not exceeding 12 months in order to prepare the industry for the implementation of the efficiency adjustment factor and volume rules. After the publication, the transition and implementation process continued through a number of stakeholder workshops and tariff applications in order to ensure a diligent implementation of the ER resolution. Further engagements that took place are highlighted on paragraph 13. Paragraph 14 lists 11 tariff applications considered by PPS in the first, second, and third quarters of the 2022-23 financial year, which were used to assess the impact of version 5 on the efficiency adjustment factor and volume rules. The assessment of this efficiency adjustment factor and volume rules is summarized in the paragraphs 16 to 33. And the results show that out of the 11 applications processed so far, 7 were identified as inefficient when compared to their peers. And the facilities that were identified as inefficient were encouraged to increase their volumes by setting a target volume at the level of their peers to be achieved within 12 months. Should this set volumes not be achieved, the licensee will not qualify for revenue clawback. And we believe that the implementation of these volume rules will result in a lower tariff, since volumes will increase while the allowed revenue will likely remain the same. And this will also decrease the revenue clawback, as the licensee were encouraged to increase its volumes to be at the same level as its peers. NESA will continuously monitor the implementation success or lack thereof against the volume submitted to NESA on a monthly basis during the relevant periods for each licensee on a case-by-case basis. It is therefore recommended that the PPS knows the report on the transitioning of version 5 of the tariff methodology for petroleum storage and loading facilities approved by the energy regulator on the 31st March 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Sibake. Members, any questions, comments, or guidance on the matter raised? Okay, I note that there are no hands that are raised, and being also concerned around the challenge that we've had with this, because the recommendation is actually to note the report on the transitioning of version 5 of the tariff methodology for petroleum storage and loading facilities as approved by the energy regulator on the 31st of March 2022, is that maybe there be, if there's any further engagement on this, I think that would be also welcome. But I see that Mr. Sbanda's hand is raised. Mr. Sbanda, over to you, sir, now.
Chairperson, I was actually looking at the challenges in relation to implementing especially the efficiency adjustment factor and the volume rules, and to say, shouldn't we then be extending the piloting period to try and iron out some of the implementation challenges, and also the issue of dealing with the appropriate peers to compare the licensees with. So my issue there is, shouldn't we be looking at extending the piloting period, so that at least we have a much longer period of time to look into this and to iron out any challenges that have been experienced. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sbanda. I think we'll note that this was piloted, and then this now deals with the transition, so that we can get all licenses on board and assist where there are teething problems, especially when it comes to the volume rules, because we're looking at the volume efficiency. And there's a proposal that is being put forth. Maybe before I go to members, let me hear your side of response, Madam Sibake.
Thank you, Chair.
Just hold on. I just see there's a hand raised. Maybe let me get Madam Boko and then come to you.
Thanks, Chairperson. I also wanted to maybe just comment on this. It will help, but then I just wanted to highlight a challenge that we have, being that if we continue to transition this version of the methodology, stakeholders just continue using the previous version of the methodology without properly engaging the regulator. So I think the counter maybe proposal, if or consideration, could be that even with the implementation of version 5, we rather be lenient in enforcing the volume rules for a certain period of time, even if it is a year. Thank you, Chairperson.
Are you saying that it should be for a shorter period of time, or just want to get clarity from your side?
I'm saying, Chair, it should be limited to efficiencies and volume rules instead of the whole methodology.
Yes. Okay. All right. Do you still want to come in, Madam Sibake?
Sorted, Chairperson.
Okay. So members, I just want to get from you, because then if the suggestion that this transitioning be restricted to volume rules for a period not exceeding a year, to assist those that are still adapting to the methodology, so that they still use the revised methodology, but only when it comes to volume rules will there be a transitioning. Mrs. Banda, do you want to add?
Chairperson, I will be amenable to that, but I'm not sure if it's a decision that we can take now. Perhaps the team can look into it and revert to the committee with a clear recommendation around that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my understanding, that even that will have to be taken by ER, but that the team will then have to look into it and revert. And then get it to this committee and then take it further to ER for recommendation to ER. Will that be doable, Madam Boko, within for the third, and then for the approval before the end of the financial year?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, just to look at. All right, Madam Simane.
Thanks, Chair, and morning to colleagues again. Mine, Chair, was to say that maybe we shouldn't over analyze the recommendation, because this report is only for noting, and as things go into implementation, I think we can still tweak things as we go forward. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Then I think it's important then that you look at you investigate this matter, Madam Bogo and your team, taking a balanced view. You have heard the issues that have been raised around limiting the full implementation to exclude the volume rules and efficiencies, so that we can be able to ease everyone in, vis-a-vis the fact that this be fully implemented and we provide maximum assistance to the licenses to apply the full methodology as put forth, noting that we've had the piloting and we've had also the transitioning, but do talk to our resources also in terms of being able to provide that kind of assistance and being able to deal with the applications within the prescribed time frame. Right. So that is an enhancement that goes with this recommendation in terms of noting the report on the transitioning of version 5 of the tariff methodology for petroleum storage and loading facilities, which was approved by the energy regulator on the 31st of March 2022. That is the recommendation. Members, by show of hands, if you support the recommendation as articulated. Thank you, Madam Simane, Mr. Sbanda, Advocate Tole, Madam Maseti. I also support. Let's then proceed to item 11, which is ended security of supply. Dr. Kolo, you've got your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. Okay, I'll try to be brief with this one. This is the second submission for 2022-2023, with the first one having served on 7 September 2022. So I would like to bring the members to attention of paragraph 6.1, where we sort of list some of the project dealing with cross-cutting issues. For instance, on the issue of as much as we touch base on the changing landscape, but there was a report that served in October 2022 touching base touching base on that one. But in terms of because in September we changed the format or the structure of the report, we sort of for the benefits of everyone, we also included the basis for those changes. But as far as the projections are concerned, as much as I'm not gonna go in, I'm not gonna be mentioning the numbers, but we had mentioned an error because we interrogated the data that we received from Transnet. We have picked up an error of which was corrected in terms of their actual volume, of which the one that was submitted by Transnet after the submission had been approved. It's a value which is 2.5% less than the one on paragraph 5.11. But in terms of testing the accuracy of the projections, but there are a number of factors that impact the projections. Assuming all remains the same, we sort of, it's subjective, this figure, say a figure of say plus or minus 5%, based on the projections that have been sent to NERSA. They are within that range. But when you look in terms of projection up until 2025, 2026, in terms of the available capacity, they will still not be able to make use of that. So capacity-wise, we are fine with that, because we also look in terms of now the pipeline connected storage facilities, whether they are causing any bottlenecks in terms of the functioning. We also have noticed that we also find with pipeline connected facilities, they can accommodate more volumes than currently being transported via the pipeline. We also check in terms of, because of the changing landscape that I talk about, the import, because we're more relying on the import. Of the import, total product import, about 76.9% is through the ports of KwaZulu-Natal. But we've also confirmed our figures, because there are figures that we receive direct from the licensees. But there was a meeting that took place between NERSA and SAPIA, as covered on paragraph 6.3.6, where we see an alignment in terms of our data and the data that they've got. With that, I would like the members to note the report. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments, guidance from members? By show of hands, please. Madam Massetti, may we in?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think we may need to improve a little bit on this report. Sometimes, you may find that members are not commenting, but it is purely also because that the fact that it tends to be confusing. And also maybe during the introduction, we also don't get at least sort of the gist of it, because there is too much information that is provided. Even from the beginning, yes, we see why this has to be done. But once you start reading the report and trying to locate it properly on the context that was given, I tend to get a bit lost. And then towards the end, there are some sort of conclusions that are made. So we need to just improve on it so that in terms of the facts that will assist us in the monitoring of any threat on the supply, then we are able to pick up those threats and some emerging risk immediately from the report and also from the conclusions. Now, having said that, Chairperson, now with that confusion, you also see it now in the recommendations for the decisions that are expected from the committee. For instance, I do not see the basis of recommendation 15.1.3, which states that the committee must note the closure of the refineries, making South Africa more reliant on imports. I don't think that that's a decision that we must make. It may well be sort of an observation of where things might be going, but we do not have facts as to whether now South Africa is more reliant, having looked at the previous figures and facts, and now going forward, and now we start saying that right at this point, now it has changed. It means South Africa is more reliant on imports. We can't make that conclusion, and we can't take that as a decision. And we have not even observed this over time. Just that point that says South Africa is more reliant on imports. So I'll be very worried if we can take such a matter as part of the decision on a recommendation, as opposed maybe to say that the outlook may suggest that South Africa could be, following this path as an observation rather than as a decision that we must take. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I understand you properly, Madam Massetti. You are suggesting that the issue of increased reliance on imports due to the refinery closures be noted as an observation. If we're to change the wording to say that you recommend that, let's say you say it is recommended that the PPS notes the report attached here to as Annexure A on the inlet security of supply, or observing the following. That is then 15.1.2, 15.1.3. We just include them as what is being observed instead of saying that you are noting them per se. Just want to get the clarity, because there's an issue that has been raised around closures of refineries, which the team was asked to say, go also and look at the logistics to see where the bottlenecks are in the logistics, because now with increased imports, it means that the system could be precarious in the sense that if there's one failure of whatever kind, then you don't have the surge capacity to be able to absorb that failure. If say the pipeline is stopped working, maybe there's inadequate storage inland to still be able to supply the inland market for a particular time. That then becomes important if one were to consider that these refineries were used were also providing domestic production, vis-a-vis the situation like we had noted around when we're looking at the engine application, to say that it's not actually replacing what is being stored per se, if one considers that it's not actually bringing in added capacity, in the sense that they were in any event used for storage for the product coming out of the refinery. So I just wanted to get that understanding. Maybe Madam Simane will assist me before you weigh in, Madam Massetti. Madam Simane.
Thanks. I'm happy to give space that Madam Massetti articulates what she'll say. Then I'll come back after she's done. Thanks.
Thank you. Madam Massetti, over to you, ma'am.
Chairperson, I think my point is that it is premature for us to put that aspect under the decision making. It is fine if it is included on the conclusions as an observation, rather than a matter where the committee must make a decision. No, that matter arises from, yes, some of the points you've made, Chairperson, and also the information that we started obtaining from the refineries, the data, the production data that we started obtaining from the refineries is still an observation, Chairperson. And we started obtaining that data, we started to obtain that data from April of 2022. The time period is not enough. And we're not certain what the market is going to, what route the market is going to take. And I don't see why we now need to take it as a firm decision. And to note, I'm very worried about that. My suggestion is that let us rather remove it from the recommendations for a decision that is expected from us. Let us just have it as an observation of what is happening in the market. I will say that. And instead, the only point that I would have said we could take it, because it seems to me it's a firm point, it's actually on paragraph 6.3.10. The one on the increase in the utilization of the pipelines, because also that increase in the utilization of the pipelines, the regulator will immediately see that effect in the tariff, because the tariff will then come down as a result of using pipelines to transport the product. And that one, at least, is something that we can say out of this report. We've made that, we've got this kind of information, and we can be able to have tangible information and data, and that will also show itself through the tariffs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Madam Simane.
Thanks, Chair. From my side, Chair, I think I do agree with Madam Maset in terms of us having to trend very carefully in terms of what we're pronouncing on. From my side, I had thought that after the engine discussion or that application, we're going to have a more strategic discussions at ER maybe level with regards to issues of security of supply, whether it's petroleum and others. And on the submission that is before us, for me, it really lacks the depth in terms of the intelligence behind all these things, because they don't just happen. I'm sorry, I don't want to go too deep, but if you look even international, maybe let's take what is currently before our eyes, even the Ukraine-Russia war, it was preceded by issues of energy security. So I don't think we should shallowly just look on these things on face value. So for me, I think maybe even if it means withdrawing completely the submission and just have a more deeper discussion on these issues, because it's more than what is put before us, and there's more than it meets the eye. Let me just end there. Thanks.
Thank you. I would propose that maybe just for better way forward. I'm not necessarily. I won't be pedantic on some of these issues, and if the 15.1.2 and 15.1.3 are included as a part of the observation, and then the recommendation is for us just to note the report that is attached on the inlet security of supply. In terms of then the issue of this report, Madam Simane, is that it focuses on the use of the pipeline. As I indicated earlier on, whilst we're dealing with the Transnet pipeline system tariff application, is that this looks at, initially it was looking at the adequacy of the pipeline. Then we found that the pipeline is actually adequate. But these other issues have come up to say on the peripherals of the pipeline and other systems attached thereto, there could be limitations that are coming out as a result of the landscape changes, chief amongst which is the closure of refineries, making South Africa then more reliant on imports, because that is given, it's as articulated there. And then to then say that in terms of the closure of the refinery, there's a separate project that looks at that. which is still going to be serving before ER, undertaken in conjunction with RAR. I think that would be important that we put that aside. And I think what you had articulated earlier on, Dr. Paul, is very important to, when you write, contextualize what you are writing by way of dealing with the scope. I think in all your submissions, please just have a subheading on the scope when you are looking at the background, so that you are able to then relate what you are presenting to other projects that are on the go, so that you don't kind of confuse members. Because from my side, as I'm closer to what you are doing, I would have the understanding, but members need to really feel that the other issues, which sometimes one would rightly think they ought to have been included here, why are they not covered? So that is a context, Madam Simane, I want to provide without necessarily standing in and providing a response on behalf of Dr. Paul, but just to help the members to provide context. I don't know if with that, members will be covered, even not necessarily needing Dr. Paul to weigh in. Madam Simane?
Thanks, Chair. Without wasting all of our time. From my side, Chair, I think I'm just struggling to make synergies on these things. Because we're talking about refineries closing, we're talking about the issue of inland security of supply where it relates to petroleum, and we just approved a tariff that it might not inspire will lead to appetite for using pipelines. So I had hope that maybe even if it's not a discussion for this day, we'll have to have just a total picture of what we're doing. Maybe I don't know whether it's because I'm new, just try to see what is it that we're doing, or where are we pushing the country within the frame our own mandate. So that's where I'm going. So I think for me there has to be a very deeper thinking in terms of how we do things, because because the issue of the closure of refineries, there's more to it than just what we're talking about. Thanks.
Thank you. I think then it's we just note here that it will assist to have a workshop dealing with this matter of refinery closures as it is undertaken. I think it would be important, Dr. Tolo, if you may revert in terms of when that would be provided by liaising with RAR as well as your colleagues within PPR. Is it acceptable to Dr. Tolo?
Apologies. Yes, Chair. It's acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
I've also noted all the comments. Thanks.
Okay, taking due regard of all the comments, members just want to move to the recommendation, which is that the PPS notes the report which is attached as Annexure A on the inlet security of supply. With that being the recommendation, as already discussed, by show of hands, members, if you would support that. Thank you, Madam Maseti, Mr. Sbanda, Advocate Stole, Madam Simane. I also do support. This then concludes item 11, which then takes us to item 12. We will deal with item 12. We take the item 12 as read. Anything to add?
Chairperson, members of the public might be still following.
Oh, okay. Oh, item 12. We need. I was not sure whether to go on or not, or to item 12 was